Woods Farm here, back out working on the Volkswagen thing today. There's an interesting view. I've got it flipped upside down so I can start working on the bottom part of this tunnel. I also got I got some rust removal to do back here, so I'm going to do some hit it with the wire wheel and then hit it with the rust converter and get this back end ready to paint. This is the back, this piece of plate's got to come off. It's something, I left it there when I originally cleaned this up because it was actually fairly solid, but I have taken a hold of the cross member that goes across the bottom of that axle. Well, it's not really an axle. Support bar, I don't know what you'd call it. I have a replacement piece, so that's got to come off. The whole area's got to get cleaned up, and I have to start figuring how I'm going to engineer this to work with the forks and to kind of make a smooth transition into the tunnel here. So that's what I'm working on today. There's the cross member that I took off the donor rear end that I got from Thing Parts. So I'm gonna graft this onto the back of mine. So when I say rust converter, this is the product that I'm using. Just getting that Canadian Tire. So I read some reviews online about it, and it's supposed to work pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to know until down the road whether or not it really helped with the paint process, but you know, it's supposed to sanding, and which isn't really an option when you look at all the nooks and crannies and the little irregular shapes, and just the fact that there's not a lot of material left to work with in some places. You know, sanding right down to bare metal is just not an option. So apparently this rust converter takes a rusty surface and it neutralizes the rust through a chemical process and leaves a paintable surface. So it seems to, it kind of makes the metal go black. You know, it takes away all that kind of surface rust, that kind of dusty orange, and just makes it a kind of a matte black, dark color. And that's it. So that's what I'm using on this stuff. Time will tell if it is going to help or not. I mean, really, if I wanted to, I could have just friggin', you know, got some rust paint and painted this if I wanted to do a kind of a half-assed job, but I figure I have it all apart. Might as well do the best I can now while everything's accessible, so that's the plan. Okay, I'm just working on the forks at the back end. I looked at the ones that I cut off and I kind of looked at how I could graft them on, and really it seemed the best option seemed to be to cut. I had the kind of the bent out piece here, it was still attached, and I decided to cut it off because that's going to allow me to slide the fork right up over top of this one. You can see how this side I've got it slid on there, and that's without any real adjusting or anything. I think it's about probably an inch to half an inch out. It's almost there. So what I need to do is I need to actually, I think I'm going to put a split in this and just collapse it slightly, and that should give me the clearance I need to slide the fork up and on. And into position. And then it'll be as simple as just double checking measurements that I've got. Really the only distance I have to worry about is how far back they are. So from this point up, it's got to be in the right spot. I'll attach the cradle to keep these at the right distance apart, and it'll be a few tacks, and then I'll be adding some 1/8 inch bar over top of these seams to give me 2 good points of contact on either side to weld to. But I mean, yeah, look at it, it's getting there. Okay, here's where I'm at so far. Just patterning out this plate for the back. Really the trickiest part is I'm going to have to fill this gap here. And also from this edge here down to this metal here, it's got to be filled in. So it's kind of completely enclosed. But once this is done, it's easy because it's just a 6.5 inch span all the way to the front. I'll probably do it in 2 pieces. I'm debating on making an access hatch right here where the parking brake is, but I don't know, that's probably not necessary. I mean, the original didn't have it, so just make it one solid piece. It'll be a little tricky right in here too when I get up to the front. Anyways, I got some sanding to do. I got this Bondo finished up on the front here. Just to fill those cracks, I wanted as much of the frame head to be sealed up as possible to keep any moisture from getting in there. So that was what I did there with the Bondo. I got these pretty much mocked up where they need to be, the forks. So right now I'm pretty much waiting for materials. I need some 1/8 flat bar and some angle iron as well, which I'm going to be ordering a whole batch of stuff to do a lot of this fabrication work that I got coming up. So the last thing I'm going to do tonight after I clean up here is I'm just going to give the back end a really good coating of rust converter. Let that sit. Kind of a good view of the tunnel. And I do have to track down about 8 feet of fuel line, which if you go to like Canadian Tire or an auto parts place, they don't have steel fuel line in that kind of lengths. So I don't know if I'm going to have to go to a truck center or something like that. Maybe special order it. But it's about 7.5 feet to go from the point here on this fork where the fuel line comes out, and it snakes down into the fork, goes into the tunnel, goes all the way out, and comes out on the other side of the firewall. So I need one continuous length.